Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country, around the world, and especially inside and around Ukraine. It is Memorial Day week in America, and we are bringing back a returning champion, a partner and mentor of mine that I admire, trust, and am inspired by every single day. The perfect guest to talk to us about Memorial Day and the exciting new project that we're launching in Washington this Memorial Day week. The great and powerful Bonnie Carroll is back on Independent Americans. Welcome back, my friend.
Oh, Paul, it's so good to be with you and back at you. Thank you for all you have done to champion our veterans' causes over so many years. It's great to be on with you.
Well, I am in New York right now, but I'm going to see you in DC on the day that this drops on Thursday. I want to talk about the creation of American Veterans for Ukraine that you have helped me manifest. I want to talk about all that TAPS is doing in Memorial Day in DC and around the world. But let's start with a question I ask of everybody. This is your busiest week of the year. Where are you, Bonnie, and how are you?
Great. I'm great. I'm in Arlington, Virginia. We are about to welcome more than 2,000 surviving families of America's fallen heroes to our National Military Survivor Seminar and Good Grief Camp. This will be our 30th annual year of bringing the families of America's fallen heroes together to find resources, to connect with each other, and to honor their heroes.
It's very exciting. Congratulations on 30 years. Since we've had you on the show a few times now around Memorial Day, I just want to ask you, you've had a really demanding pace. You've been going back and forth to Ukraine and other places around the world. What's the last year been like for you personally doing this kind of really important but also very hard work?
Well, TAPS has a tremendous team of peer professionals. We've got about 100 survivors on our staff who are, have advanced degrees, advanced training, who are there providing frontline care to families whenever and wherever a service member is lost. So over the past year, we've actually had nearly 10,000 newly bereaved families grieving the loss of a service member or a veteran who came to TAPS. Now, that's in addition to the hundreds of thousands of surviving families that TAPS currently cares for. So grateful that we come right alongside the casualty officer to care for families whenever a loss occurs. My time has been spent a lot overseas. We've been in difficult places, of course, Ukraine often, and also Burkina Faso, Somalia, Libya, places where there is tremendous loss, where we can help those countries raise the next generation in stability and security in the midst of conflict.
We say on the show a lot, look for the helpers. And every year I say that there's no finer example of that than you, Bonnie. You're running in to the places other folks are running out. I feel like you must have multiple clones of yourself because I don't know how you're in so many time zones. You still email me back. Let's talk about American Veterans for Ukraine. We are launching it this week in Washington. We will have our event at Ukraine House on Thursday. This will drop the morning of that event. So if you get this in time, come join us at Ukraine House. You can register at AmericanVeteransForUkraine.org. But you and I have been working on this for since last year. Now it's finally here and we're launching it. Can you talk about why you think American Veterans for Ukraine is important and your message as we launch this organization here in America and launch it to the world?
Thank you, Paul. And there is no more powerful group than the veterans of America to come together to support the war effort in Ukraine. We made a commitment to Ukraine when they denuclearized that we would stand strong with them, and we need to keep that promise. A lot of Americans also don't realize as this war goes on and as they see these aid packages that it's really a gift card that we're giving to Ukraine to buy American weaponry. They're testing our weaponry on the front lines in battle. So many reasons why this is the right thing to do, the right place to be, in addition to just the war crimes that Putin has inflicted upon the citizenry of this sovereign country. I've had the opportunity to be back and forth to Ukraine since the war in 2014 and gotten to know so many of these precious families who have sacrificed so much for their beautiful homeland just to live in peace and security. And we must stand with them. It's the right thing to do. The time is now, and I'm so proud, Paul, of what you have created, rallying the veterans of America to stand with all those, the citizenry and the veterans in Ukraine.
Well, you are a legend, and you've answered so many calls, and you've answered this one. You were on the ground in Ukraine before the invasion, right? Before everybody's attention really locked in on Ukraine. You've got extensive operations there, and I want you to talk about that. But we've known each other for 20 years. We've worked on suicide and VA backlogs and survivor support. And I really am so grateful for your ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome, as we say in this community. You're a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, which is a tremendous honor. I was so privileged to be around you when that was happening. But can you talk about what you see when you go to Ukraine? Because you send me reports. We're going to send teams of veterans over to Ukraine to try to bring visibility, bring support, and to drive press and congressional action here at home. But can you talk about what you see over there and what your team sees that maybe the country is not seeing?
Well, for most of the country, life is going on. There are constant sirens, constant missile strikes. Air defense, thankfully, has gotten stronger, so they're able to deflect most of these horrific attacks. But what we see on the front lines, where our headquarters is in Dnipro, is innovation, creativity. It's, we're just 2 hours from the actual war zone, the hot zone. So they are sending constant equipment in. I see just this hunger for help from the Western world, from the rest of the world, caring about it. We've got a medical team that is doing extraordinary advanced training in tactical medicine, and they're going into the casualty collection points right there on the battlefield. And just to see how this inspires those who have been in the fight for 2 years now. And it's an opportunity for all of us to donate, to support, to become aware, to share the message that the fight is still going on. It is still incredibly unjust, unfair, and brutal, and it must stop.
Bonnie, you are joined up with me and our fellow veterans and friends and advocates, Matt Gallagher, the great writer and advocate, Nolan Peterson, who is all guys who've been guests on the show. Nolan Peterson, who's been an incredible writer, a Special Forces veteran. He's married to a Ukrainian woman. He lives in Ukraine. And Adrian Bonenberger, who's been a guest on this show, also married to a Ukrainian woman, has trained civilians in Ukraine. We've got this super team, and Nolan, I think, is going to be the next to go over and leading chalks kind of one after another for as long as it takes. But can you explain, you've been in so many different war zones. Why is Ukraine different for someone who maybe doesn't get it, who's maybe been listening to the propaganda or the extremists in Washington who are saying, hey, this is not our fight? You've been in almost every war zone in the planet. Why is Ukraine different and important?
No, we made a commitment to Ukraine, and we should have stopped this in 2008 when Russia seized 20% of Georgia. We had the opportunity there, and then in 2014 when Russia came into Crimea. And here we are today, now dealing with this great threat. But for Ukraine, the war began in 2014, and this has been an ongoing battle. We have supported the surviving families. We have now raised a generation living in constant threat. Paul, the camps that we do for these kids, the fear that they're living with, the stress, the anxiety that not only they may lose a parent or they may already have lost a parent, but they think they could die at any moment. Constantly heading to shelters, hearing the sirens, seeing the missiles land. And this is our opportunity to stand with a partner that we have committed to, that we need to absolutely support. And Paul, thank you for rallying the veterans of America to stand with our soldiers and warriors in Ukraine.
Well, this is the fight of our time. And, a lot of folks don't realize we stood and trained with Ukrainian forces long before this was on the international radar, long before, Putin made the big push. And I view it as the fight of our time. I know others can speak for themselves, but this is a much more pure fight than we had in Iraq, a much more pure fight even than we had in Afghanistan. And I think the stakes are much higher. I think many people who understand these issues see the stakes as much higher. But now we're going to connect the dots, right? You've got a group from Ukraine that will be in Washington, D.C. this week for Memorial Day. You've got amazing good grief camps. You've served tens of thousands of kids, and to be with TAPS and Memorial Day in Washington is very, very special. To be with you at the good grief camp where you serve these kids, a generation of kids now, to be at Arlington Cemetery, to be around your network. You've got Chef Robert Irvine chipping in again, who's also been a guest on this show. But can you talk about what the group from Ukraine is going to be a part of and the activities you have going on here in Washington, some of which are public and you welcome folks to come to. But can you explain what the next Memorial Day weekend is going to look like for the TAPS community and for you?
Right. In these first few days, they actually arrived on Sunday. We've had meetings with the ambassador. We're meeting with the chief of the National Guard Bureau because our National Guard has a very tight relationship with the Ukraine National Guard, where we've done training and partnership opportunities. We also have a tight relationship with the National Police of Ukraine, and we're calling on police departments across America to join up and support sister cities' police departments in Ukraine. Today, we're going to be up on Capitol Hill meeting with members of Congress. And so this part of the week is focused on our Ukraine initiatives right through the launch on Thursday with the American Veterans United. So now, Paul, coming into Memorial Day, our families start arriving on Thursday. We kick off on Friday morning with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. General Dempsey will be there. He's a member of our board of directors, a former chairman himself. And he's going to be singing along with Army Downrange, kind of a tradition and a crazy way to start a grief conference. But, for these families, it's not only about mourning the loss and honoring the life, it's about celebrating the fact that we were privileged to have these warriors amongst us. So for our families, they'll learn coping skills, they'll connect with each other, they'll create a community, participate in all the Memorial Day ceremonies and activities. But most of all, this is our chance to be together.
Mm. And the connective tissue is really inspiring. I mean, to be around these communities, especially around Memorial Day, is so empowering because we said for many years at IAVA, Memorial Day is when a lot of folks go to the beach and we go to a cemetery or we mourn, right? Folks have a barbecue and we go to memorials for our friends. But whatever you're doing, you can stop and recognize and reflect on the magnitude of this, but also the fact that there's so many connective pieces. Our technological innovation happening in Ukraine will support our defense here in the US. Our lessons learned with the wounded and with post-traumatic stress disorder are now helping Ukrainian forces who are coming off the battlefield. And I just want to pivot back to one point. You said 10,000 new families have come to TAPS this year. Can folks, that number kind of surprises folks, right? Because the high numbers of folks aren't being killed in action. I know it's from suicide, it's from cancer, it's from toxin exposures, but can you unpack that a little bit? Because the cost of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are going to last for a lifetime, and your work is still meeting that demand.
Oh, absolutely. And war is different today. In Vietnam, you were shot in the jungles, you died in the jungles, or even in World War II, you're shot in the trenches, you probably died right there where you fell. But today, our service members, thankfully, have this golden hour where there's a corpsman, a medic nearby with practically carrying an ICU on their backs and are able to just stabilize and keep that service member alive until they're evac'd. And then because of our medical technology, now some of our service members have lived years beyond their combat injuries. And today we see this very high rate of loss as a result of exposures to toxins. Paul, you were so involved in the Burn Pits initiative and the PACT Act that provides benefits for all those exposed to toxins and the burn pits. And we've also now seeing a spike in suicide tragically from the trauma experienced during those 20 years of war. So for our families, right now is our wartime.
Bonnie, I hope you can stick around for a couple minutes for some extra content for our Patreon members. I want to thank them for supporting this work, for bringing our conversation series with independent candidates, our focus on Ukraine, our focus on veterans. Bonnie has been on the front lines for decades. You started this through your own loss, and to see it come full circle now also with the Renaud family, right? We both knew Brent and Craig for a long time. When Brent was tragically lost in Ukraine, we sent his mother to you. Now she's a part of that community, and now the family is supporting the launch of American Veterans for Ukraine. So it really is a special and empowering community, and you've built a generation of people that are stronger, that are united, that are helping each other at a time when I think we need it most, Bonnie. So I always want to just thank you for your leadership, your heroism, your patriotism. You're one of the finest human beings that we've got. There's a reason they call you Saint Bonnie
Oh,
in the Pentagon. It's definitely worthy. But let me ask you, Bonnie, for a bigger final question here. Um, these are hard times for people, and you are a master of navigating hard times. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of anxiety. People are worried about security. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about crime. They're worried about a lot of things, and I think understandably so. But there's a high level of stress and worry. Do you have lessons learned from your life doing this kind of work that anybody who's going through a struggle can learn from?
well, Paul, that's a tough question. And for me, it really is perspective. I mean, I start my day very early from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. with our Ukraine team, and really modeling off the way they take care of each other, the way they celebrate every moment of life. And instead of being consumed with anger and hatred, they are motivated by love for each other, by the beauty of their country, by a commitment to innovate, to find new ways to overcome and adapt. They celebrate new drone technology, new evacuation methods. We've got now, this ATV contraption that will, you can strap someone on and quickly evacuate them off the battlefield. Yesterday, we raised enough funds to buy 6 more of these. So every moment is celebrated. Every life is appreciated. Birthdays are bigger. Children's, accomplishments are bigger and grander. And just the amount of love that happens there on a daily basis puts my day and anything trivial that we're facing here with our first world problems in perspective.
Mm. I think love is the common theme I've learned being around you. You said always, mourn the loss of your loved one, but celebrate their life. And your entire life's work has been a celebration of life and a celebration of people and a bedrock of strength for so many more people than we'll ever know. So I just want to thank you for all you do. We don't say happy Memorial Day, but I want to wish you a good Memorial Day, a strong Memorial Day, a unifying, inspiring Memorial Day. And I just want to thank you for all you're doing. Everybody should check out taps.org, check out now American Veterans for Ukraine.org. We're going to have a lot more to come, but this is an exciting time to meet the moment for our survivors here in America, for our friends in Ukraine, and for the entire world. And Bonnie Carroll, you are a true hero. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul.
Stay vigilant, Bonnie. Stay vigilant and get some rest after this.